All right, Rabbi, say good morning. Let us begin. We have a beautiful, beautiful daf ahead of us today. Brand new parak. We thank our sponsors for this morning's shir. Our Talmud Torah sponsors for the month of Iyar, Menachem and Susie Schoenfeld, dedicating all the Shumer Drushos this month for Aliyas Neshamas of their grandparents, Moshe ben Shimon Leif Halevi, Sarlea Bas Dov Ber, Menach Mendel ben Dov Ber, Sariyita Bas Yaakov Sender, Noach ben Avram, Fega Bas Meir, David Shimon Ben Yisrael and Sarah Bas Yaakov. Our week of learning has been dedicated by Jack Bennett in memory of Skan Uriel Peretz, who was a platoon commander in the 51st Battalion of Golani and died in a Hezbollah ambush in southern Lebanon in November of 1998. We thank our week of learning sponsors, Adam and Leslie Rosen. In honor of all the mental health care workers, Hashem should give them strength, support, and knowledge to care for their patients and themselves during this pandemic. We thank our week of learning sponsors, Yonasan and Rachel Wolf. With that, Kar Satov to the entire Kehila for providing Rabbi Yonasan with a Zoom home away from home during coronavirus shutdown. We thank our DAF sponsors, Daniel and Sippy Getz, in honor of the birth of their daughter Yael, and in the merit that she should grow to lead a life of Torah. And Michael and Rachel Terniansky, in memory of Michael's mother, Jeanette Terniansky, Shendel Bas Mordechai. We hope that in the merit of our Talmud Torah, the Neshamas will have an aliyah, the families in Nechama, and all of our children will Emir Hashem grow to be true B'nai and B'nos Yisrael. And both with that, let us begin. So we are picking up in the new parak today, Emir Hashem. Today's daf is Ayin Zayin 77, and we are picking up on Ayin Vav Amud Beis 67b at the Mishnah. So it says in the Mishnah, both say, so still focusing a little bit on the Malacha of Hotzah, it is quite fascinating to see how much time Hotzah gets in the Masechta. Really very interesting. So in the event we say as follows. Hamotzi yayin kedei meziga sakos. So remember again, kind of picking up on the theme of last parak as well, which is what happens, the shear. In other words, remember, as we pointed out, it's not just enough to carry something out on Shabbos, but in order to be chayiv, you must actively carry out a significant shear, a significant amount. So now we're trying to focus on what is the definition, ultimately, again, of significance. So the Gemara says, okay. Actually, did I do something wrong over here?
Bad news.
Actually, did I do something?
I think the video went off. Did you
Oh,
touch the... Yeah.
sorry. I'm back. Sorry about that. Had to fix my makeup. Okay, so we'll say so with that, let's go right there. So the Gemara says as follows: Samotzi yain kedei meziga sakos chalav. I'm sorry. Hayotzi yain kedei meziga sakos. So we'll say if a person goes in and carries out wine. So remember again, you would carry out the amount that you're chayiv for carrying out of wine is the enough to literally again dilute a glass of wine. Remember, the way they made wine is they had wine concentrate. So what you would have is you would have a jug of wine concentrate, and every single time you wanted some wine, you would go ahead and take some wine concentrate, pour it into a cup, add it with water. So how much wine concentrate are you chayiv for transporting on Shabbos? Enough to dilute a glass of wine. Chalav, what about milk? Kedei gemia, enough to swallow. Divash, honey. Kedei litin ala kasis, enough to put on a sore. Shemen, oil, kedei lasoch ever katan, in order to go ahead and smear on a small limb. We'll discuss what that means. Mayim, what about, again, water? Kedei lashuf banasa kilor, enough water to make a kilor mixture. Kilor, I will say, was an eye ointment. So you mix some type of herb, some type of powder with water. So water, you're chayiv if you carry out enough to go ahead and make kilor. Usha'ar kalamashkin b'revius. And all other drinks, all other liquids, their share is a revius. V'chala shofchin, or we'll say shofchin literally means waste water. Again, we'll discuss what that means in the Gemara as well. B'revius. Reb Shimon Omer, kulan b'revius. Reb Shimon says, at the end of the day, in fact, the share for every single liquid is always a revius. V'lo ne'emru kala shi'urin halalu ela lematzni ehen. So we'll say we saw this Reb Shimon quoted actually on Amud Aleph on yesterday's daf. So the Mishnah says over here as follows: Reb Shimon holds that Tanakama holds that liquids each have their subjective shi'urim. So remember again, in order to be chayiv of transporting a liquid on Shabbos, you have to carry out a chashuv amount. What's the definition of chashuv? It depends. Liquid to liquid has a different shear of chashivos. Reb Shimon says no. The shear for liquids is a revius. That's the shear. That's the shear. Just the difference is that what? That halacha l'maisa, if you happen to store a smaller amount than a revius, then that amount is considered to be chashiv for you, and therefore you will be chayiv for otzah even for an amount smaller than a revius. Look at Rashi. V'lo ne'amru, shelo ne'amru shin shel mishnah el masnin levad, v'chazer hamatzniya v'hotzio chayiv, aval shar kol adam shotzio eino chayiv. So we'll say, so this is shitas Reb Shimon. Reb Shimon holds that in general the shear for liquids is a revius, but if you happen to store an amount that is less than a revius, you demonstrate that that smaller amount is chashiv for you, and once it's chashiv for you, you are chayiv for its hotzah. Says the Gemara Tana, Kedem Zigas Kos Yafa. So remember, the Tanakhama said that the shear for carrying wine is enough to dilute a nice cup. Kos Yafa. So the Gemara says, what does that mean? My Kos Yafa, Koshal Bracha. This refers to the type of cup that you would use for kiddush, for birkas hamazon, for benching. So if you carry out enough wine in order to go ahead and dilute a proper cup of wine, then halacha l'maisa you are chayiv for that. Amrav Nachman, Amrav Baravua, koshel bracha. So we'll say what are the amounts of dilution for a koshel bracha? So Amrav Nachman, Amrav Baravua, koshel bracha tzarich sheyehebo rova revius. So we'll say the halacha is that proper dilution ratio is 1/4 or 1 part wine concentrate to 3 parts water. So 3 parts water, 1 part wine concentrate, that is the proper balance to make a good glass of wine. Now remember, of course, you can make a glass of wine however you want. What the Gemara is saying over here is to be a kos yafa, which is the type of kos that you would use for benching, for kiddush, something like that, for koshel bracha. That should have 3 parts water, 1 part wine concentrate. Amar Rava said, Af anan nami tanina tapa vayin zayin, hamotzi yayin kedei mezigas kos. We learned in the Mishnah, that if a person goes ahead and carries out wine enough to dilute a proper kos, a kos v'taniyala, k'dei mezigas kos yafa, and we've said it's enough to make a nice glass of wine, v'katani seifa, u'sha'ar kol hamashkin berevius. And I will say, remember again, what does the end of the Mishnah say? So the end of the Mishnah says, and all other liquids. So we'll say the way our Mishnah set up is as follows. There are certain liquids that have a different amount that make it a davar chashuv. But in general, unless you're one of the mentioned liquids in the Mishnah, if you fall into the general family of liquids, of mashkin, your shear is revius. So the default shear, the default amount to be chayiv for hotzah on a liquid is a revius. Unless, of course, you have a specific amount that's mentioned before, revius. V'rava l'tamei. Now we'll say, now watch this. Now Rava goes according to his reasoning. Da'amar Rava, kol chamra delodari al chad tlas maya lav chamru. So we'll say, because Rava holds that in general, in order to make a good glass of wine, a glass of wine is only considered to be a glass of wine if it is 3 parts water and 1 part wine. Okay, good. So we'll say, so therefore again, where the Gemara is holding right now is, the Mishnah gives a little bit of an it's not ambiguous, but it's just lacks definition. I know that the amount of wine I'm chayiv for carrying out on Shabbos is the amount necessary to dilute a glass of wine. I just don't know exactly what that means. To which the Gemara now defines it's the amount of wine necessary to make amount of wine concentrate to make an amount of wine, which I will say essentially is 1/4 of a revius. 1/4 of a revius is the amount of wine concentrate you need to make a proper cup of wine. Sabai says there's 2 problems with your definition. So here's a problem. We'll say they have another Mishnah. The Mishnah says that when you want to make a nice diluted glass of wine, what do? You use 2 parts water and 1 part yayin shironi. Now both say, now yayin hashironi is, Rashi says, shegadol b'sharon shem madinahu. This is a wine, right? Sharon grapes, right? Sharon grapes from the country of Sharon, or the region of Sharon. So the Gemara says, so you see over here that what? That it sounds like that to make a properly diluted glass of wine, you need 2 parts water and 1 part wine, right? So both say, so again, that's obviously a different shear. Va'od, mayim bekhad umitzdarfin. Both say, here's the other part that Abai is bothered by. Both say the shear of let's go back for just a second. So he says, Rava, you're saying that the amount of wine concentrate that you're chayiv for transporting on Shabbos is 1/4 of a revius. 1/4 of a revius. right? Because that's the amount. You would take a quarter of a revius, mix it with 3/4 of a revius water, and that makes a proper glass of wine. Abai said I have two problems with it. First of all, another Mishnah says it's 2 parts water to 1 part wine. So your shiurim are off. That's number one. Number two, the wine concentrate itself is only chashiv when introduced with the other parts of water. Even going with your shear, that it's 3 parts water, 1 part wine. 1/4 of a revius of wine is not a significant thing. You can't do anything with that by itself. The only thing you could do with it is ultimately, again, mix it with water. So why should you even be chayiv at all for carrying just a quarter of a revius of wine concentrate? Literally means, and the water is still in the barrel. So the water's somewhere else, the wine concentrate is in my hand, and even though I know the mixture itself forms something chashuv, but right now it's not mixed. So why should I be chayiv for that? To which the Gemara says, Amalei Rava says, 1 second. Hadika amrit shnei chelki mayim ve'echad yayin min hayayin hashironi, yayin hashironi lachud derafi. So first of all, so Rava says to Abaye, calm down. Because look explicitly at the Mishnah you quoted, right? The Mishnah you quoted is talking about a specific type of wine. So Rava says, yes, when I say that proper dilution ratios are 1/4 wine concentrate to 3/4 of a revius water, that's normal wine. Everyone knows that yayin hashironi, right? Everyone knows that yayin hashironi is literally rach, right? It's a softer wine, which essentially just means that halacha lemaisa, you need more wine concentrate of yayin hashironi. It's a weaker wine. So therefore, again, if you dilute it with 3/4 of a revius of water, then ultimately, again, it's not going to be proper wine. So the shiurim for yayin hashironi are better off 1/3 wine, 2/3 water. Inami hasamishum chazusa avalatama ba'itfei. The other possibility is you can make a drink that looks like wine with 1 part wine, 2 parts water. But ultimately, again, in order to go ahead and make it taste properly, you have to use my shiurim. So Rabbi say either Rav is saying different types of wine indeed have different dilution ratios, or no, the ability to go ahead and make a drink look like wine, you could do 1 part wine, 2 parts water. But the ability to make it taste like proper wine requires 1 part wine, 3 parts water. But the Gemara says, and that's what you said. How could the wine concentrate ultimately, again, be considered something significant when it's not even mixed with the water? The water's in the barrel, and yet you're saying they're combining. So Rava gives a very simple answer. The Inyan Shabbos midi dechashev ba'inon v'hanami hachashev. To which Rava says, Abai, remember, this is the principle we've seen over and over. When it comes to Shabbos, in order to be chayiv for hotzah, for carrying something out, what has to happen? You have to transport something that is chashuv. So therefore, again, Rava will say a revius, a quarter of a revius of wine is chashuv. I know that it can't be drunk on its own. I know that it's not usable right now, but in the eyes of the Welt, in the eyes of the world, this is considered to be something that is chashuv, and therefore ultimately, again, you're chayiv for hotzah. Which Rav says is something very important. Rav is teaching us essentially that in order to be chayiv for hotzah, so you don't necessarily have to transport something that is actively usable now in its current state. You just have to transport something that is considered to be a davar chashuv, that is considered to be important. So although the quarter of a revius of wine by itself doesn't actually do anything for me, but because it is a davar chashuv, therefore halacha l'maisa I'll be chayiv for transporting it out. Good. So let's go back to Tana. Yavish bekizayis tiv Rabbi Nassim. Rabbi Nassim says about side that if you have yavish, now yavish over here Rashi points out is yayin karosh. What happens if you have congealed wine? Congealed wine. So the Brisa says if you have congealed wine, you're chayiv if it's a kizayis amount. So you're chayiv for carrying a kizayis of congealed wine. Now Rashi says, why is that? It's in the second wide line of Rashi. We'll say the Gemara is assuming over here that a congealed kizayis, right, in its liquid form would be a revius. So therefore, Rabbi Nassim says, if you have congealed wine, so you are a kizayis of congealed wine, You're chayiv because the kezayis of congealed wine is in fact a revius in the liquid form. So the Gemara says, Amar Rabbi Yosef, Rabbi Nassan, Rabbi Yossi, Rabbi Huda, Amru Davar Echad. So Rabbi Yosef says that Rabbi Nassan, who we just quoted before, who says again, when it comes to congealed wine, you're only chayiv if you carry it a kezayis, because halacha lemaisa, a kezayis when liquefied will become a revius. So Rabbi Yossi says, so Rabbi Yosef says that Rabbi Nassan and Rabbi Yossi, Rabbi Huda said the same thing. Rabbi Nassan Hadam, so we just quoted Rabbi Nassan before, right? Rabbi Nassan holds that halacha lemaisa for carrying congealed wine, you're only chayiv if you carry a kezayis. For Rabbi Yossi, Rabbi Yehuda, Desanya. What does Rabbi Yossi, Rabbi Yehuda say? He said as follows: Desanya, Rabbi Yehuda Omer, Shisha Dvara Mikule Beis Shammai Chone Beis Hillel. There are 6 things that Beis Shammai was makel on, lenient on, and Beis Hillel was machmir on, and one of them was dam nevela. When it comes to the blood of an avela, so let's remember again, the blood of an avela is an animal that dies on its own, right? Or dies without shchita, I should say, right? Dies without shchita. So what's the halacha of its blood? Beis Shammai mitarin. Beis Hillel matamin. Beis Shammai says that the blood is tahar. The blood is tahar. So Rashi says over here, Beis Shammai mitarin. The eno kibasra letame benavela bekizayis. Velo toras mashkin letuma kala. So we'll say ultimately again, Beis Shammai holds that the blood of an avela is not similar to the flesh of an avela. That whereas the flesh of an avela can convey tumah, the blood does not. Beis Hillel matamin. Beis Hillel ever says no, it's not true. The blood of an avela does have the ability to go ahead and conduct tumah. Rabbi Yossi, or I should say transmit tumah. Rabbi Yossi, Rabbi Yehuda. Av kishetimu Beis Hillel lo timu ela bedam sheyesh bo revius. Hoil v'yachol likrosh v'la'amot al kizayis. Here it is. And Rabbi Yossi, Rabbi Yehuda says, and by the way, even Beis Hillel, who says that the blood of an avela does go ahead and convey tumah, that's only by what? That's only by blood that has a revius. Why revius by blood? Because because that way, ultimately, again, when it congeals, it will become a kizayis. So I will say, so the point over here is that both Rabbi Nassan and Rabbi Yehuda hold that the shiurim of kizayis and revius are the same. Just again, what is a kizayis in a solid form will become a revius in a liquid form, and what is a revius in a liquid form would ultimately become a kizayis in a solid form. For our purposes, therefore, halacha l'maisa, our Mishnah tells us that if you carry out wine concentrate on Shabbos, how much are you chayiv for carrying? A revius. Why? Because that's the amount that you need to make a kos yafa, and if the wine congealed, it would have to be a kizayis. Amar Abaye. Abaye says, well, one second. So you're linking the shitos of Rabbi Nassan and Rabbi Yossi, Rabbi Huda. Now, I will say, obviously, they're talking about 2 very different contexts, right? Rabbi Nassan is the one who says that halacha l'maisa, any item that when it's yavesh is a kizayis, ultimately again will become a revius when it's liquid. So Rabbi Yossi, Rabbi Huda says that halacha l'maisa, even Beis Hillel, who holds that the blood of an avela is going to become tamei or is tamei, that's only true if halacha l'maisa there is a revius of it, because this way again, if it congeals, it goes ahead and becomes a kizayis. Abayi now says maybe they don't actually agree. Ana Abayi Dilma lohi ad kan lo kam Rabbi Nassan hacha de by revius. Supposed to listen to this. Maybe Rabbi Nassan only holds that you need a revius in order to go ahead and make a kizayis of congealed wine is by wine. Why? Because wine is thin. So maybe that's why you need a shear like a revius in order to make a kizayis. Aval bidam the samech kizayis lo by revius, but by blood, which generally has a thicker consistency, then halacha l'maisa, maybe you need less in a liquid shear in order to create a kizayis. I mean, you don't need a full revius in order to make a kizayis. Inami, ad Camel Rabbi Yossi, Rabbi Huda hasam de kizayis sagidei berevius, ela bedam de samech. Furthermore, again, maybe Rabbi Yossi, Rabbi Huda only holds that halacha l'maisa by blood, the reason why a revius of blood will create a kizayis is because the blood is thick. Aval yayin dekalish kizayis haviosim revius, but one which is thin, maybe you need more than a kizayis in order to translate into revius. V'chi mapik pachos mikizayis l'chayiv, and therefore, even if you take out less than a kizayis, you should be chayiv. So we'll say, so fine. So meaning at the end of the day, the Gemara says just the shitos don't necessarily align with one another. Okay, so we thought we could line up Rabbi Nassan with Rabbi Yossi, Rabbi Yehuda, because they're speaking in different contexts. Maybe ultimately they don't really line up with one another. Fine, it doesn't bother us so much. At the end of the day, here's what we know: that halacha l'maisa, if on Shabbos you transport out a revius of wine concentrate, you will be chayiv. That's the shear for wine concentrate. Why Rabbi say? Because halacha l'maisa, a quarter of a revius, I shouldn't say revius, a quarter of a revius of wine concentrate ultimately again is going to be enough to go ahead and create a kos yafa, a nice glass of wine. Good. So we go weiter. So we'll say, and remember again, we also solidify our definition that in order to be chayiv for otzah on Shabbos, what you really need to be able to do is to show that the item that you're transporting is chashiv. As long as it's chashiv, then ultimately again you will be chayiv for its transport. Chalav kidei gemia. So we'll say, so when it comes to milk, right, you're chayiv for transporting the amount of milk that you could swallow. Say bailuhu kidei gemia or kidei gemia. So we'll say now we're gonna answer some interesting gemaras here. The Gemara is asking actually a spelling question. Is it kidei gemia? Now gemia means to swallow. So is it gemia with an ayin or is it gemia with an aleph? So Mamash will say a spelling question, right? How do you spell the word? Amrav Nachman. We'll say, remember, no one's arguing. This is funny. No one's arguing on the facts, right? Again, we're all in agreement. The amount you're chayiv if you carry out on Shabbos a swallow of milk, right? The amount that you can swallow at once is swallowing gemia aleph or ayin. So the Gemara says, Amrav Nachman Yitzchak hagmiini namat mayin mikadech. So we'll say it seems to be that it's gemia with an aleph based on the pasuk in Chayisara. Right? This is by Eliezer when he runs over to Rivka and he says to her, "Can you please pour me some water from your jug?" Fine. Ifsa aleph. Next, Ivailuhu. We'll say Amud Beis. Same idea. Gar'inin o gar'inin. So we'll say when we spoke about before that halacha l'maisa, right? We just had this in yesterday's daf. Halacha l'maisa. If you go ahead and when thinking about the shear of carrying out an item, right? Let's say lentils or other things like that. We don't go ahead and count the pit, right? The garinin. So is garinin ultimately again spelled with an aleph or with an ayin? Amar Rava bar Ula v'nigra me'erkecha. So we'll say this is very interesting. First of all, it's interesting etymologically. Why is a pit called a garin? So it seems to come from the shorish of gara, which means to detract or to subtract, to take away, to lessen, to diminish. Why? Because we'll say, when you look at the fruit looks much bigger than it really is. Because at the core of the fruit is something inedible, right? Think about this, like with a peach, right? So the peach might look, wow, look at all this fruit. But then l'maisa, there's the pit that takes out a good chunk of the fruit. So that's why it's called the garin, because it is gorea. It takes away from the consumable amount of fruit. Pretty amazing. So therefore, halacha l'maisa to an ayin. Ibailuhu, omamos o omamos. So I'll say same idea. This is talking about flickering coals. So is omamos with an aleph or with an ayin? Amar Yitzchak bar Avdimi, arazim lo amamuhu began elokim. So we'll say again, based on the pasuk over here, according to the pasuk from Yechezkel, that literally again, the cedars will not extinguish him in the garden of God. So yisiyamuhu with an ayin. Ibailuhu, ma'amtsin tnan o ma'amtsin tnan. So we'll say we'll get to this later on. This is talking about ma'amtsin literally means to close the eyes. This is talking about, we'll see some what you could do with a person who dies on Shabbos, the ability to close their eyes or not. So the Gemara says, is it ma'amtsin with an alif or ma'amtsin with an ayin? So the Gemara says, Amr Rabbi Chiya bar Abba, Amr Rabbi Yochanan, va'otzem einov miraos bira. He closes his eyes from seeing evil. So we'll say, so over here, what do you see? You see that halacha l'maisa, it has an ayin. So the Gemara says, Tan Rabbana. Okay, so we'll say, so really, just interestingly enough, all of this, the reason this whole thing started is because we just wanted to know how to spell the word gemia. Because halacha l'maisa, that's relevant to the Mishnah, right? Is it gemia with an aleph? Is it gemia with an ayin? We see that it's gemia with an aleph. Once the Gemara kind of started that, then halacha l'maisa, we begin asking a whole bunch of other questions about spelling as well. So very important. Beautiful. Says the Gemara as follows. Tana Abanon. Hamotzi chalav shal behema kedei gemia. Right? If a person goes ahead, and I will say now we're going to see that even in the realm of milk, right? Different types of milk have different types of shiurim. So, for example, the Brisa says as follows: if you carry out animal milk, so that if you're chayiv, if you carry out the amount that you could swallow at once, chalav shel isha. What about human milk, a woman's milk? Velovan shel beitza, or for that matter, the white part of an egg. Kedei litain be mishifa shel kilar. That is enough ultimately again to put into a mixture ultimately of kilor, of eye ointment, eye salve. I look at Rashi for just a moment. It's the top of Rashi, the third line down from the top in the widest lines. Mishifa shel kilor, sherigilin l'shofo b'chalav shel isha. So apparently, one of the ingredients for this eye mixture ultimately again was human milk. You would put a woman's milk as part of this mixture. So it's enough milk for the kilor, to mix into the kilor. So the Gemara says kilor. What about again kilor itself? How much would you be chayiv for carrying on Shabbos of kilor? Kedei lashuf b'mayim. Enough ultimately again to mix with water. So Rabbi says, so again, if you carry a kilor also was like a concentrate, it must have been some type of powder that you would mix with water and apparently milk in order to make this eye salve, in order to make this eye ointment. So on Shabbos, if you carry enough kilor concentrate, you'll be chayiv. By Rav Ashi, this is very interesting. Kedei shifa or kedei achiza. So Rabbi say, when thinking about the amount of kilor that you be chayiv for carrying out, is it the amount ultimately again that you need to apply to the eyes, or is it the amount that you need to apply to the eyes plus the amount that you know will get stuck on the fingers of the person who's applying it? I was saying, whenever you had a batch of kilor, so you had to realize again you need a certain amount for your eyes, but in the application process, some of it gets lost on your fingers. So the shaila is when figuring out how much kilor I need in order to be chayiv for hotzah. So is it just the amount of kilor I need to apply to the eyes, or it's the additional amount knowing that some of it will get stuck on my fingers? To which the Gemara says, Teku. We don't know. We don't know. Good. Dvash kedelitin ala kasis. So we'll say, interestingly enough, honey. How much honey are you chayiv for transporting on Shabbos? Enough to go ahead. I lost the place. Enough to go ahead and put on a sore. So apparently honey would be placed on a sore in order to I guess soothe the sore, heal the sore. Tana kedelitin al pikasis. So first of all, the Tana over here quotes that what? This is so that you put it on the mouth of the sore. Right? So apparently we'll say the honey doesn't have to be smeared on the entire sore. It's really just smeared on the tip of the sore, the top of the sore. By Rav Ashi, al kasis apuma de kula kasis, o dilma amur shakama de kasis, la fuke hodarna de lo. So we'll say, so the Gemara just tries to analyze this. Rav Ashi says, does it mean that you go ahead and you put the honey literally again on the top of the entire sore? Or maybe you only have to put it on the tip of the sore, right? But on the sides you don't have to. To which the Gemara says, teku. Okay, so once again, we know that the shear for honey is the amount that it takes to put on the sore. We're just not sure. We'll say it's just they weren't sure about Metzias. Remember, again, there's nothing, there's nothing esoteric happening over here. There's just literally just like a lack of knowledge about how they actually used honey in this particular medicinal way. Amrav, we'll say a beautiful, beautiful Gemara. Amrav Yehuda Amrav. Kol ma shebara Kodesh Baruch Hu ba'olamo lo bara davar echad levatala. Whatever HaKadosh Baruch Hu created in His world, there was nothing that was created for naught. We'll say this is such an incredible Gemara. Everything that exists in this world has a purpose. There's no such thing as something that is not purposeful in this world. And even if we can't see the purpose, we'll say, right, this is like the Mishnah in Avos. Al tihivaz l'chol adam. Right? Don't go ahead and be dismissive of any person or anything. Every person has their place, every person has their moment, everything in this world. So we'll say this is such an incredible yesod. Everything that HaKadosh Baruch Hu created in this world is necessary. There's no such thing as something strange. So we'll say, there's a beautiful story that's told that one time the Maggid of Mezrich was walking with his Rebbe, the Baal Shem Tov. And the Maggid, the story actually has a couple of different versions with a couple of different personalities, but the Maggid was walking and he pulled a leaf, or he pulled like off a tree, and the Baal Shem Tov says, "What are you doing?" So the Maggid says, "What's wrong?" He says, "You just pulled a leaf off the tree." To which the Maggid says, "Yeah." He says, "That leaf has a purpose. That leaf has a purpose. What right do you have just to randomly pull a leaf off a tree?" Says, sometimes we look at nature, we look at the world, and we think that there are extra pieces. There are things that are extraneous. So ultimately, you pluck the leaf off the tree. Well, what does it matter? So to which the Gemara says, so ultimately, again, everything in this world has a purpose. Everything has a purpose. But I will say, but you know what the real Musar is? If every leaf has a purpose, then certainly, again, every person has a purpose. Sometimes we go through life and we think that we don't matter. We think that our actions don't really have an impact. We think that how we live, what we do, what we say, how we interact is not really such a big deal. It only impacts me. It's not true, says the Gemara. Lo bara davar echad livatala. If no leaf was created, right, without a purpose, then alachas kama v'kama, the incredible purpose and destiny that each of us has as well. Incredible. So the Gemara gives examples. This is incredible. Bara shavlul lekasis. Because Baruch Hu created slugs in order to heal sores. So apparently we'll say a remedy for sores is you would put a slug on the sore. I think the way that works is once you have a slug on your sore, you totally forget about the sore, right? I think you become pretty preoccupied with the slug that's on your body, and suddenly you forget about all your ailments. Bara zvuv litzira, because Baruch Hu created a fly for a hornet's sting. So apparently Rashi points out that if you got stung by a hornet or a wasp, you would take a fly, crush up the fly, and go ahead and put that on the affected area. Yitush lenachash. Apparently, gnats have the ability to go ahead and take care of a snake bite. Nachash lichafafis. So ultimately, again, apparently snakes are helpful with a type of boil. We'll discuss what that means. Visamamis la'akrav. And spiders take care of scorpion bites. Okay, we'll see what all this means in just a moment. So the Gemara says, Heichi avidle. So we'll say the Gemara, actually, interestingly enough, the Gemara is most intrigued about this statement that snakes could take care of boils. So how do you go ahead and use snakes to take care of boils? You take a white snake, you take a black snake, you boil them up, cook them up, take that, make it into some type of paste, v'shaifile, and go ahead and put it on the affected area, and boom, your boils are taken care of. Okay, Tan Rabban, I'm supposed to say now a beautiful brisa, really incredible. Chamisha emos hein, emas chalash al gibor. I'm supposed to say there are 5 types of fear, which we'll say under normal circumstances in the world, you normally fear something that is stronger than you and bigger than you. There are 5 instances, says the Gemara, where something smaller creates fear in the heart of something bigger. The fear of something smaller goes ahead and overtakes something bigger. What are they? For example, so the Gemara says, Amos chalosh al gibor, Amos mafkia alari. So we'll say the mafkia puts fear in the heart of the lion. Now what's the mafkia? If you look at Rashi, so Rashi says over here, mafkia chaye ketana v'kola gadol v'shum avir shetei bria gidol bres. So apparently this mafkia, I don't know what type of animal it is, but it's an animal with a very loud voice. The loud voice makes it sound much larger than it actually is, and as a result of its very loud voice, it even puts fear into the heart of the lion, which is incredible. And what a musar for life. I will say, sometimes people or things or speak with very loud voices that make them sound much bigger than they really are and scare us for absolutely no reason. See, even the Ari, right? Even the lion is scared of this mafkia because it has a very loud voice. Emas yutush al hapil. There is the fear of the gnat on the elephant, because we'll say apparently again, when the gnat gets into the trunk of the elephant, it drives the elephant crazy. Emas samamas ala akrov. There is the fear of the spider upon the scorpions. Remember again, we'll say in all of these cases, right? This, of course, the scorpion is stronger than the spider, but for some reason, again, the spider has the ability to hurt the scorpion, so the scorpion is afraid. Emas sanunis al hanesher. There is the fear of the sanunis. We'll say sanunis is a type of bird. I think it's normally translated as swallow. That often what it does is, Rashi points out, it nestles itself in the wing of the eagle and prevents the eagle from extending its wing. So even though the eagle is the mightiest of the birds, nevertheless it's afraid of the smaller bird. Emas kilbis alev yasan, and there is the fear of the kilbis on the lev yasan. Remember again, the lev yasan. The lev yasan ultimately again was this very large sea creature that HaKadosh Baruch Hu created, the largest sea creature, probably the largest creature to exist in the natural world. But yet the kilbis, which I will say, interesting, Rashi says, sheretz katan v'nichnas ledag gadol ba'ozno. So you know what this sounds like, this kilbis? Some type of parasitic fish, something type of parasitic sherets that lodges itself inside of the Lev Yasan and could literally, I don't know if it could kill the Lev Yasan, drive the Lev Yasan crazy. So I'll say 5 examples of where small things create fear, ultimately, again, in the heart of something larger. So the Gemara says, Amar Rabbi Yehuda, Amarav, Maikra, Hamavlig showed al-az. So we'll say, quotes over here, the pasuk says, Hamavlig showed al-az. Literally, again, he puts fear of the weak onto the strong. Rabbi Zira. There's a lot of musr in that Gemara I have to understand, because the question that it really forces us to ask ourselves is, there are things that we fear in life. And the question is, do we fear them because we should legitimately fear them? Or do we fear them because, there are some things that are really small and I can handle, but I fear it for a whole variety of reasons. We all fear something. Every once in a while in life, it's good to ask yourself, are the things you are afraid of legitimately things that you should be afraid of? So the Gemara goes weiter. The Gemara says, Rabbi Zera ashkich l'Rav Yehuda da'avakai apischa debechamua. So this Rabbi Zera found Rabbi Yehuda, who was standing at the entranceway of his father-in-law's home. He saw that Rabbi Yehuda was in a very good mood, very jovial mood. And they saw that whatever, because Rabbi Yehuda was in such a good mood, whatever they would ask of him, Rabbi Yehuda would answer. Right? He was in a good mood. He would answer any question. I don't know that means to infer that when he wasn't in a good mood, he would answer everything. You're going to see they weren't asking him really like precise halachic questions. They were asking him more like general questions. So they saw that because he was in such a good mood and so happy, that halach l'maaseh he would have answered. Amarle, my time easy maskim b'reisha v'hader imri. So I asked him, why is it, right, this is all to Rabbi Yehuda. Rabbi Yehuda, why is it that goats normally travel at the head of the pack and sheep only go at the end? Good question. Amarle, kibriyaso shel olam, debereisha chashucha v'hader nora. Because again, the goats and the sheep follow the creation of the world. And when the creation of the world was created, first there was night, then there was light. First there was nighttime, then there was day. So too apparently Rashi points out, goats are always darker than sheep. So therefore it's normal that the goats travel first in the pack and then the sheep afterwards. My taima, hani mechasyon v'hani megalyon. Why is it that halacha l'maisa, the sheep are covered? Rashi says mechasyan bezanav, right? The sheep are covered with a tail, but yet the goats don't really have a tail; they're revealed. To which the Gemara says, "Hani demachsinon minayu mechasyon, v'hani delo machsinon minayu megalyon." These who we clothe ourselves with are themselves clothed. These who we do not clothe ourselves with are not clothed. We make our clothing from the wool of a sheep. Generally, again, about say goats do not produce wool that is really suitable for clothing. So because we get our clothing from the sheep, therefore the sheep are quote unquote clothed with the extra tail. With a tail. Goats who we do not clothe ourselves from, ultimately again do not have the tail. I want to point out something amazing. What you see through these questions and answers is a very important yesod, which is everything in the world has a seder, right? There's no such thing. This is the point of these questions and answers. There's no such thing as something that's random. So the fact that the goats go at the front of the pack and the sheep in the back, that's not just haphazard, animal kingdom coordination. There's a seder to this. The fact that sheep have tails and goats do not, there's a seder to this. There's a seder, there's an order, there's a chachma. Remember, this goes back to what we said before. There's no such thing as saying that God has created in this world that is for naught. Everything has a seder, everything has an order. And I just want to point out, the musr for us is incredibly important as well, because our entire life is about divine emulation, right? Our entire life is about emulating the Ribono Shel Olam. Just like HaKadosh Baruch Hu runs his world with a seder, runs his world with an order, we must run our lives with a seder as well. The things we do have to make sense. The things we do have to follow an order. The things we do have to be part of some greater master plan. The reason so often in life why we don't become the people we really want to and can become is often because we lack seder. Is because we lack order, we lack a plan, we lack a construct, a framework. Everything that HaKadosh Baruch Hu does in his universe has a seder. We must learn to do the same. The Gemara goes weiter. My taima gamlo zutar ganufte. Why is it that camels have short tails? Short tails. I also said now. By the way, you also understand why they're only asking these questions. They saw that Rabbi Yehuda was in a very jovial mood, so they asked him these questions. Now you can understand why. Because we'll say these are the kind of questions where everybody asks, right? We all ask these questions. These are the kind of things you normally asked in Shir when you wanted the Rebbe to waste time, right? Because you did not want him to go on with the material, right? And that's when the Rebbe usually, depending on when you grew up and which yeshiva you went to and what era your Rebbeim were from, the reaction would be anything from a little fresque, right? A little patch, ultimately again to some stern rebuke, because these are like, come on. But when they saw that Rabbi Yehuda was in a good mood and he was willing to entertain, just like general world questions. So they asked them these questions. So the Gemara says, why does the camel have a short tail? Good question. Because ultimately, again, the camel eats in thorn bushes. The camel eats thorns or around thorn bushes. If it would have a long tail, its tail would be cut by the thorns. My taima tura aricha gunufte. Why is it that a cow has a long tail? Mishum dedayer ba'agme ubayla karkushe baki. Because cows often graze in swamps. Swamps have mosquitoes and gnats, and the cow uses its tail to swat away the mosquitoes and gnats. So we'll say it's incredible. What Rabbi Huda is just saying is, again, HaKadosh Baruch Hu created such a well-oiled machine, and even the length of tails at the end of the day is not a random fact. It still is part of some greater construct. It's incredible. My time kind of becomes a krichicha. We'll say, why is it that grasshoppers? This is incredible. Grasshoppers have antennae that bend, right? Their antennas are soft, so they're able to bend. Mishum dadari bechilfe, because ultimately, again, grasshoppers often live among willow branches. Vikashya nadya umis avra, because the branches sometimes can be hard. The grasshoppers run around, and if the branches were what's the right word? Were immobile, were stiff. We're stiff. Then halacha l'maisa, when it would come in contact with the branch, it would crack off. And the moment that a grasshopper loses its antenna, it can't see. It's interesting. They understood that a grasshopper sees, right? It's able to navigate with its antenna. So the Gemara says, Shmuel said, if you want to blind the grasshopper, for whatever the reason, right, just take out its antenna. So we'll say, therefore, again, Kadosh Baruch Hu had to make the antenna soft. So when the grasshopper is hopping around, if it hits a branch, it hits a plant, it hits this, the antenna bends, and ultimately, again, it's able to move forward. So, which is another incredible yisod, another incredible mussar, very quickly, which is that halacha l'maisa, if you want to be able to make it through life, you can't be rigid. Because if you have rigidity in life, the first time you hit something, you're going to crack. Something's going to crack. Either you're going to crack or the obstacle is going to crack. Those who are a little bit more malleable, those who are a little bit more fluid, those who are willing to bend a bit more, can navigate a whole variety of circumstances. An incredible yisod. My taima, hai timra detargnalusa, magli le'ela. So I say, why is this fascinating? Apparently, rooster eyelids, the bottom lid goes over the top lid. Right? As opposed to other animals where the top lid goes over the bottom lid, here the bottom lid goes over the top lid. So the Gemara says, why is that? So the Gemara says, this follows, the Gemara says, because this way, the Gemara says, the dairi adofi, the ayol kitra misavra, because apparently roosters often go ahead and nest on higher beams, and often smoke rises up, right? Smoke rises. So therefore, again, if their bottom lid would close over the top lid, the top lid over the bottom lid, the smoke would enter in. This way, because the bottom lid closes up, it prevents the smoke from entering into their eyes and blinding them. Pretty amazing. So now the Gemara gets into a couple of etymological statements. The Gemara says, Dasha, why is a doorway called a Dasha? Derech Sham, it's a contraction. The way in is through here. The Gemara says, Darga, stairs are called the Darga. Why? Derech Gag. This is the way up to the roof. Maskulisa. So we'll say maskulisa. What's a maskulisa? So if you look at Rashi, Rashi says over here, maskulisa apparently was a type of dip. Rashi's maskulisa is davar shemet makbilin bokigon kusa chushar liftan. Some type of dip. What does that stand for? Masai tichla da. When will this end? So Rashi points out that apparently people had these dips for a very long time. He gives a couple of different gersos in it, right? Ultimately, again, or when it ends, what will we eat? Or how long will we have this for? What will we do when it runs out? Fine. Beisa, why is the house called a Beisa? Ba ve'esiv ba. Come in and sit inside here. Biksa, Shabbos say biksa normally refers to a very small house. Be'akasa is a contraction, ultimately, again, be'akasa, a house that is very narrow. Kufsa, Shabbos say kufsa is a mortar. Kof visiv, something that you could turn over and sit on. Livni, why are bricks called livni? Libne bani, I will build something for my children. Because you could build something with bricks that will endure even past your lifetime. Hutza, what's a hutza? Is chatzitz. Shabbos say hutza, Rashi says, is geder kotzim ulavim. That's a fence that you make out of reeds or out of palm branches. So where do we get that from? Chatzitza, because it's a barrier, it's a fence. Chatzba, Shabbos say chatzba is a pitcher, usually a water pitcher. Shechotziv mayim min anar, because you draw out water with it from the river. Kuza, Shabbos say what's a kuza? So Rashi points out the kuza is kli cheres cut in a small earthenware vessel. Kazeh. So we'll say kazeh usually is a lashon that like a little, like kazeh, a little bit like this. So the kuza also only held a little bit of water. Shutisa, so we'll say shutisa is a bundle of myrtles. Rashi says, Bat shal hadas shimeraktim bo lifnei kala. This was the bundle of myrtles that you would use to dance before the kala at a wedding. So this is incredible. Why is it called shutisa? Ultimately, again, shtusa, because people act like fools when they dance it. So we'll say it's interesting. So Rashi says, sometimes when people dance before a chassan and kala, they look so foolish. Right now, again, the Gemara is not demeaning that. There's a beauty in that, because what a person is showing is they're willing to even forgo their dignity to bring simcha, to bring joy to the chassan and kala. There's something beautiful, there's something magnificent in that. But so they used to dance with a bundle of branches. So they called that bundle of branches a shutisa, which literally means shtus, foolish. Because sometimes when people dance in front of the chassan and kala, they look so foolish, but it's a beautiful foolishness. Again, the Gemara is not demeaning it. It's a beautiful foolishness, a desire just to put a smile on the face of the chassan and kala. Maskila or mashichla. So Rashi says over here, this is a safal gadol, this is a large trough that holds water that ultimately people wash themselves from. Mashekula, because you could wash your entire body from it. Maskilsa, so I'll say, what's a maskilsa? Now Rashi says over here, Maskil says, Safal Katan Vena, this is a small basin that you would wash. Mashya Kalsa, it's what a bride would wash herself from. Asisa is a hand mortar. Chaserta, because there's something missing from it. The hollowed inside part of a mortar was missing from it. Buchna, a pestle. Bo ve'akena, bring it here and I will hit it, because that's what you do with a pestle. Levusha, so lo bosha. Why is clothing called a levusha? Because ultimately, again, if you wear it right now, the truth is levusha, they're really referring to chalak elyon shekar shrok. This was ultimately, again, an outer garment. So ultimately, again, wear the outer garment and you will not have busha. Because ultimately, again, if you wear the outer garment, even if your inner clothing is tattered, ultimately, again, it hides the tattered clothing. Galima, cloak, shenas galam. It makes you like a shapeless figure, right? Because the cloak hides your features, you become like a shapeless figure. Golsa, we'll say golsa was like was a more inner cloak. Actually, over here, makturin noah. This was like a nice. The best way I can illustrate this is like a bekisha. Right? Everybody wore bekishas, of course, right? So this was like a bekisha. So I'll say the reason I say this is because it's fascinating. Because how do you sit down? Well, so you ever see how the Hasidim, when they sit down with the bekisha, so they take the bottom corners, and like flip it up. That's how they used to sit down with their cloaks in the times of the Gemara as well. Because you don't want the robe or the cloak. This is not really a cloak, because cloak is something we're outer. This was more something inner. You don't want your inner robe to hit against the dirt. So they would take the corners, flip it up around their waist, revealing their legs. So the Gemara goes right there. The Gemara says, Purya Sheparn V'Rav. Why is a bed called a Purya? Because that's where people procreate. Bor Zinka. What's a Bor Zinka? So I'll say, if you look at Rashi, Bor Zinka is a pit that used to have water, but then subsequently dried up. So why is it called the Bar Zinka? Bar Ze Naki. ultimately, again, because this pit is naki, literally, again, it's freed from all of its water. Sudra will say is a head wrapping that was often worn by Talmidei Chachamim, Sod Hashem liyireav. Ultimately, again, the secret of HaKadosh Baruch Hu is to those who fear Him. Apadna, ultimately, again, so what's an apadna? Apischa din. So we'll say apadna, Rashi says over here, is a palace. That's what a palace is, right? And why is it called an apadna? Because apischa din. Everyone comes to this entranceway. And I was about to say, if you look at Rashi, apischa el pesach zo yavo hakol im lemishpat im lesharis hamelach. So we'll say, Salach Lamaisa, the Gemara says at some point in time, everyone needs the king. So because everyone needs the king, therefore again, that's why the Apadna, everyone needs this Pesach. We'll end off, Tanra Abanon, Shlosha, Kolzman Shemaskinin Mosifin Gvura. There are three things that as they get older, become stronger. Elohein, Dag, Nachash, V'chazir. Three things are also that become stronger as they get older: the fish, the snake, and the chazer, and the pig. So we'll say, we don't have time, but maybe next week we'll focus a little bit on what that means, or you'll use your Shabbos homework. There's a lot of meaning, a lot of depth that is dafka these three things. If you notice, apparently people, right, are not in this category, right? So there are some things that get stronger. Whatever, we'll have to define what kivura means. Can't do it today, unfortunately. Also, we'll stop over here. Shir tomorrow night is, I think, well, it's not at the time, but I believe it's at 9:30. Rabbi Yehuda Neuberger will be giving the Shir Mir Hashem. We'll stop here. Sammy Esterson is going to be leading us again in davening this morning. Again, reminder, today is Yom Yerushalayim. Sammy Esterson will have a beautiful halal as well. Yasher koach to everyone, and wishing everyone a beautiful and uplifting Shabbos Kodesh. Shkach will say beautiful.